Welcome to Inspire and Move, the show that inspires you to create, connect, and grow. I'm going to bring you meaningful conversations, aha moments, and all the motivation you need to up-level every part of your life. I'm Ali Aruda, founder of Inspire and Move, and your personal hype girl. I've gone from fashion school to celebrity stylist to corporate marketing to brick and mortar entrepreneurship with my husband, each time learning incredible lessons how to pivot, reimagine, and implement the steps to become successful. I'm passionate about inspiring others to live their best life, a life of joy. We have the power to design a life that we love, because life is too short not to. The best part is that you weren't meant to do this alone. If you feel like you are meant for more, let me ride shotgun with you, and together, let's get you to where you want to go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Inspire and Move podcast. It's your host, Ali Aruda, and I have been so excited to bring today's very special guest onto the show. Please give a warm high vibe welcome to Dr. Arshad Hack. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I've been so excited to get you on the show, and I know we've actually been trying to get this scheduled for months because I have just loved everything about my experience at LiifeHack Longevity. And to give everyone some context listening and watching before we dive into the conversation, I have had private, concierge style, executive medical, however you like to identify it in your own brain. I have used all of the above for myself. That has been on my wish list for so many years. I was first exposed to it when I worked in corporate for a luxury automotive dealer, and many of the clients, including the president and CEO, would go to similar clinics to LiifeHack. This is before LiifHack though. And that was when I was first exposed to this. And being such a passionate, health-focused individual, this has always been something that I wanted to work towards having in my life. And I am so grateful that we connected. We had one of the longest coffee dates I've ever had. And we've just been able to really dive into doing some really cool things together. So I'm pumped for this conversation.
Me too. It was a lot of fun having you and Matt come into the clinic, go through our process, understand how we collect data, and then how we put it together into meaningful plans, so that you understand it. And I think that the outcomes were great, and I'm excited to share with your viewers.
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, first things first. You have been in the medical space as a physician practicing for almost 20 years.
Correct.
First things first. And you are still practicing.
I am still practicing. I am. Absolutely.
Which is very important to say. And just as an adjacent little sidebar here, your schedule in a week, what does that look like?
Ooh, probably not as busy as your schedule.
We can compare.
I'm going to blame you for the amount of time that it took us to organize this. But my schedule is pretty much Monday to Saturday. I'm in my family practice 2.5 days a week, seeing a variety of patients, on average about 30 patients a day, from newborn babies, adolescents, maternal health, mental health, geriatric patients, musculoskeletal medicine. I never know what's coming through the door. And I do that and sort of go room to room, and really, for 20 years, I've built those relationships. So that's a big part of who I am and what I do. And then 2 days a week, I'm at LiifeHack currently, sort of, doing the kind of medicine that we're going to be talking about. I still have privileges at the hospital. So I've got privileges at Joseph Brant Hospital. I do inpatient medicine there. So they call it hospitalist medicine. Keep my acute medical skills up.
It's very impressive. You have about 3 full-time jobs.
3 full-time jobs and then 2 teenagers.
Yes.
So that's probably a whole other full-time job.
Yeah, and an Uber driver, basically.
Hey, well, that's my role, with no tips or 5-star service.
Yes. Just all service.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a practicing physician with your family practice. What inspired you to start LiifHack?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And I would say that over the last 20 years in my practice, 2 things have happened. There has been increased gaps in the healthcare system that are not meeting the needs of individuals. The second thing that's come up is that there's been new science and advancements in diagnostic testing, and preventative care, and in particular, in my position, understanding around aging and the science of aging that is being unmet by the current healthcare system. So, many sort of gurus in the longevity space talk about medicine 2.0 being a reactive medicine. You come in, we diagnose a disease and we treat a disease. And there's a lot more data that we can use to drive patients into preventative medicine, preventing diseases or picking things up at its earliest stage and treating it much earlier. So long-winded way to say that I started LifeHack to, number one, fill in the gaps in the system. And number two, to provide an option for patients who are really interested in preventative healthcare and health optimization, to feel as though there's a space where they can come, they can speak, they can be listened to, receive the highest level of care and customer service, and stay their healthiest selves.
I love that you referenced optimalization because that is something that I think about so often just in my daily life. If I want to do things so that I can live and perform at my optimal level.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons I was just so excited for the experience when Matt and I got to come in together and both do the life hack experience. So instead of me speaking to what it is, and I'm absolutely happy to and so passionate because I loved it, but I would love for you to share with everyone what that looks like for someone like Matt and myself that, early 40s. Well, I'm just 40. Matt's early 40s, just so everybody knows. I don't want to round myself up just yet.
Yeah.
But early 40s, successful, healthy, super active, what we came in for and experienced at LifeHack.
So everything at LifeHack is bespoke. So you'll remember our process started with a sit down.
Yes.
We sit down, we talk about your health, we talk about your goals, we talk about where you're succeeding and where there's room for improvement. Through that process, it gives me the opportunity to put together a program for you that will collect all of the different data pieces that I can then assess, collate, and develop into a meaningful and actionable plan for you that will move your health forward. So that plan is going to be different for each individual. And the battery of tests that I choose for each individual can differ. That being said, the testing capabilities that we have are fairly limitless. And so whether that's looking at your physical health, like your strength and mobility, your genetic predispositions, your nutrigenomic testing, your neurocognitive testing, your body composition, weight management, hormones. I mean, I can go on and on. All of those are testing capabilities that we have. And depending on what the patient is presenting with and what their needs and goals are, we put together that plan. Then we do the testing. Then we get the data back. I connect all the dots for you so that you can see how it all works together, where the common threads are. The plan will always focus on the low-hanging fruit first. So making sure that we have the strong foundation, and then upon that foundation, we can start building. I don't like it to be overwhelming. The plan is not to paralyze you with information, but it's to provide you with small areas for meaningful change that we use to create new habits, and then stack those new habits on top of each other as we continue to make you healthier and healthier and healthier.
What are some of the greatest transformations you've seen for people that have taken the data that you collected and the results that you shared with them to then build these stepping stones?
We've been open for a little over a year, and the success stories are like greater than my wildest dreams. It gives me so much satisfaction to actually see. And so I've had patients who came in who, had, normal body mass index based on the calculations, but had really high visceral fat levels, had high inflammation levels, had low muscle levels. And we put them on a plan. One patient gained 20 pounds of muscle whilst lowering body fat percentage even further. Inflammation levels came down, sleeping better, mood is better. It's just a phenomenal transition. I've had patients who have significantly decreased their alcohol intake as a result, are working out regularly, also building muscle, eating healthier. We've had patients who were not able to touch their toes,
Ooh, that's a good
who
one.
yeah, who are now able through our mobility program to move so much easier in a pain-free way that they weren't able to do before. I've got patients who are coming in really struggling with like perimenopausal like symptoms,
Hmm.
who we've been able to stabilize, help with their mental health, help with their physical symptoms, help with their weight management. Um, I've had one patient who lost 55 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, and no more knee pain, cholesterol under control, no more insulin resistance. So, I mean, I think I can go on and on
Yeah, this is
about,
a beautiful, broad scope of success stories.
yeah, I mean, like I said, the doors are open to anybody, and each individual's presenting conditions and needs are different. And so we cater that to that individual, and it's great to see that we've had success in all of those different areas.
We talk about this on such a micro scale, having this conversation with you, it's such a micro scale compared to. But at Benchmark, when we're talking to some of our personal training clients, when we talk about longevity, a lot of it does come with the building the foundational practice of mobility. So, to your point about this patient that's been able now to touch their toes, we will often talk about being able to do exactly that, or if it's lifting grandkids or lifting your children. And I always use the example of putting a carry on suitcase in the overhead bin. I want to be able to do that until I'm 90. I
Yeah.
want to do that all the time. Even now, if I travel solo, sometimes there'll be chivalrous gentlemen that maybe want to do that. And I was like, no, no, I can do this
I
by
got this.
myself.
I got this.
I
Yeah.
probably could also do this for you as well.
Yeah. One-handed, like
Yes.
a
I'm
kettlebell.
going to do a pull up at the same time while I'm putting it in the overhead bin. I think this idea of anti aging and longevity, do you feel like those two words coexist beautifully together? Or do you think they actually have two different meanings?
That is a really good question. Um, I actually, I think that aging is inevitable,
Hmm.
right? We're all going to go through aging. It's a process that we can't stop. But our motto at LifeHack is age with agency.
Hmm.
So through our process, I I want you to go through successful aging. I want you to feel in control of your aging. As a result of having the data and focusing and having control over your aging, you will then improve your health span. Okay. And so, we have influence over our lifespan, which is how long we live.
Hmm.
And things that we look at, including your metabolic health, your cardiovascular health, your neurocognitive health, things like cancer screening, can help to improve your longevity, and your lifespan. But I would say that aging with agency allows you to improve your health span. And our whole goal is to shorten what we call the health span gap, which is the difference between how many healthy years you're living and how many years in total you live. And
Ooh.
so, to answer your question, I think anti aging and longevity are different. I think successful aging and aging with agency and longevity are more similar.
Oh, I love that. And you brought up one word, the word gap, which I would love to dive into a little bit, like what you feel is a gap that we are missing when it comes to biomarkers in our health data. We know, me and Matt, from their experience at LifeHack and what you and the team have created for the experience, that you are so data driven. So, is there a biomarker that so many of us just kind of milling about our life that we are missing when it comes to knowing what is in our blood work or just simply knowing about our body so that we can age with agency?
Yeah, so it's a really good question again. And I don't think that there's like one biomarker that is like the penultimate marker that we're overlooking or missing. At the end of the day, from the way that I think about it, is if we don't check, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the system today, which is in Canadian healthcare, a public healthcare system that is fundamentally meant to keep the health of our society as good as it can be. But that's not necessarily looking at the individual or the health of an individual. And so testing, as a result, when you go through that process, may miss things. So I think spanning a large net, even if it's at the beginning of the testing, just to show that everything is okay and optimal, is what's important. We do those types of things through blood work, but then we also, we'll look at your microbiome, or we can do your full epigenetic testing, or look at genetic sequencing, or look at your telomere lengths, or the senescent cell loads, other things that are just not easily tested that we have the ability to test. But for your viewership, I would say making sure that you're getting your cholesterol checked in detail. So an apolipoprotein B, an LP little a that you get once in your lifetime. I think those two things are really important and often overlooked. I think a fasting insulin is something that's really often overlooked. I've had a number of patients who've come in who have had normal hemoglobin A1C levels. And so, on first glance, you would say, oh, this person doesn't have any insulin resistance. They don't have diabetes. But when we look deeper and look at their fasting blood sugar or their fasting insulin levels, or their methylation, it will show us the opposite, that they do have insulin resistance. And then we look at our DEXA scan and we see higher visceral fat levels, and we look at our inflammatory markers and we see slightly higher inflammatory markers than we would expect. So that's how we would pull those different pieces of information together to show somebody that, hey, you've got insulin resistance and we don't want this to become prediabetes or diabetes. Therefore, let's act now.
And are those tests that if someone is not yet in a position to come and experience the difference of LifeHack, is that something that's available to them at the traditional blood work clinic?
Absolutely. So, the biggest, phlebotomy clinics that we have are Life Labs and Dynacare, like here in the Greater Toronto area. And yes, you can go get a fasting insulin done. You can get an apolipoprotein B. You can get an LP little a or lipoprotein A. All of those tests are available through Life Labs.
Today's episode is brought to you by LifeHack Longevity here in Burlington. If you train seriously, you already know that the work is only half of it. The other half is knowing what's actually happening underneath. That's the layer most people are flying blind on. LifeHack measures it: VO2 max, bone density, and lean mass with DEXA, strength and range of motion, epigenetic markers that show how fast you're really aging, plus deeper screening like whole body MRI, early cancer detection, and microbiome assessment. Then a clinical team turns all of that into a plan built specifically around you and your goals, not a generic protocol. Think of it as the diagnostic foundation underneath your training: medical, physical, and cognitive, all in one ecosystem with a physician who knows you. The training is yours. This is the data that makes it count. LifeHack Longevity, age with agency. Find them at lifehack.com. What about things like our vitamin D levels, especially, here we are, you and I sitting here in our home studio in Ontario, currently no sun shining outside, and we have brutal winters.
We do.
So what is your take on vitamin D? Let's talk for like Ontario and Canadians that maybe don't have optimal sunshine all the time.
Listen, I think at the end of the day, almost every Canadian has low vitamin D. Testing vitamin D, though, is important because it's important to know if you're supplementing, like how much do you need to supplement, right? And so having a baseline and then knowing, if you need to supplement or not, and then how much you need to supplement helps you. And having adequate vitamin D, obviously, we know all of the different health benefits that accrues from that. I think that is important. It is not paid for
I know.
by OHIP, but it is something. It might cost you $30, but it's $30 well spent.
But for sure, I think when it comes to your health, that it's always been, and please feel free to chime in on this because you come from such a wealth of knowledge and two very different experiences in family practice versus the more elite medical experience at LifeHack. But some people just really cut it short when it comes to investing in their health, whether it's working with a trainer or the gym membership or recovery, supplementation, quality foods, good water. What's your take on all of that?
It surprises me. It disappoints me.
Yeah.
I think that I have so many patients who will not spend $500 on proper physiotherapy or, $100 a session on personal training, but who will go spend $500 on a bottle of wine,
Yeah. Or and a full dinner.
right?
Hmm.
Or, not look at, the expenses. It might be $10,000 on a purse, but no, I'm not going to spend this money sort of like focusing on my health. So I think, our health is the most important, call it asset that we have, and you have to invest in it in order to like optimize and receive from it. And so I look at it as a non-negotiable. And within my family, we act in that same way. And I try to encourage my patients to do that. Now, it's interesting at LifeHack, there is a selection bias because the people who are coming to LifeHack are interested in getting the data, in testing, in improving their health, in following through with the plan, in successful aging and living a long, healthy life. And that's actually been very refreshing for my team and I to be working with individuals coming in who are very motivated.
Oh my gosh. When Matt and I came in for our results day, I practically skipped into the office. When you passed me that duotang full of data,
I haven't heard the word duotang
I
for quite a
know
while.
I haven't used the word duotang since my results date. And even though I actually can't even understand half of it because it's so not my everyday language, but the attention to detail that you put in there, not only that showcases the data, but then putting it in a nice, easy to read English terminology that I could understand was also on the receiving end a very refreshing experience to be able to get all of that and see and even feel for the most part actually quite proud of what was included in there. I was quite stressed about the liver ultrasound, as you know, because I do like wine. And I would love your take on that. I know we've had some conversations offline, how we enjoy a nice wine, but also from a health standpoint. So, because I feel like it's actually kind of a quote unquote controversial topic, and I just mean because you have two camps of people I feel that are very passionate about both sides right now. What is your stance on alcohol when it comes to longevity and overall health?
I think that it's never my goal to eliminate things from someone's life, particularly eliminate fully. Like, we've talked about the 80-20 rule. Many people adopt that in their daily life. I might push to a little bit more of like a 90-10 rule.
Okay.
But to say that you shouldn't drink alcohol at all would not be in line with our sort of like theory at or our goals at LifeHack. I need you to live your life. I need you to enjoy your life. If you enjoy a lovely glass of red or white wine or a cocktail with friends, and it's social and it's enhancing your experience or your meal or whatnot, by all means, go ahead and do it. If you're drinking above the guidelines, if you are leaning on alcohol as a coping strategy, If it is something that is like habitual or that you don't have control over, or we're starting to see that it's having impact on, early markers like your deep sleep and sleep efficiency, your recovery, your heart rate variability, some of those types of markers that we pay attention to, or if it's further downstream and having impact on liver and liver inflammation or liver scarring. I mean, those are different situations. But, does a few glasses of wine a week, does that have negative impact on you? And will I tell you to stop that? No.
I know, you brought me so much peace when we had this conversation. I almost offered you a glass of wine for this
What
recording.
the-
How ironic would that be?
There you go.
But I think that is really refreshing. And I think that's something that I have taken action on since our results meeting with you, of knowing that like I love good wine. And I'm like, I have no time for bad wine.
I don't blame you.
Like I'll happily go to a wedding if I'm like, oof, oh no, I'm not having that. I'll just have sparkling water.
Yeah.
Like it's not worth it for me. I love it too much. So I'm like, I'm not wasting this moment.
You can afford to be picky and choosy.
Yes.
Like pick your times. Like one of my best friends has the most incredible wine cellar, and my wife and I joke around that he's ruined us.
That's fair.
and
Those friends are tough.
Oh yeah, he's a tough one. And so yeah, bad wine is one of those things that we will overlook and turn for a Perrier also.
Yes, I have no time for that.
Yeah.
But it's something that I have also really become aware of when it comes to my sleep and my workout performance, because my workouts are so important to me. And if I'm going into it not feeling my best or have a headache, that just doesn't set me up for the success that I'm looking for. So I have really been able to find that balance of knowing that, okay, I could probably have a glass and a half, maybe 2 glasses throughout my evening with a nice meal, good conversation with Matt, lots of water, and 8+ hours of sleep. I can still have a great workout the next day and feel good about myself, feel good about my body, and all of the above.
There you go.
Okay, I want to chat about recovery, because that was something that came up in my results, and I'm always so happy to share so candidly with everybody listening and watching. For me, the biggest thing was being such a high achiever, high performer,
That's an understatement.
which I think a lot of people listening to the show or watching it on YouTube would probably be able to identify. So I would love some of your professional insights on this specific, let's call it a little avatar, the little high achiever avatars that are go, go, go,
Yeah.
and what that looks like.
Yeah, and listen, I said that there's a selection bias on the type of patients that come to LifeHack, and I would say that there are a lot of type A, very driven people. I see lots of women. Let's start there, who sort of like come in, who work out 6 or 7 days a week. They've got jobs, they've got kids, they're managing their households. It's just full on all the time. Sleep tends to be one of those things that falls by the wayside. Proper nutrition, and I don't mean eating healthy, but I mean eating enough.
Yes. I'm
Because
seeing a lot of content about that from very strong women
Yeah.
that are trainers, nutritionists. I do love that message, because I feel like we had this whole era of strong, not skinny. Then skinny kind of came back for a second with, I think, the Met Gala and some of the Hollywood elite being very slender. And now we're back to, protein and fiber and eating enough.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very powerful message. But I can also appreciate, as a female, where I grew up in, like, let's call my early 20s, I had a really bad relationship with food and the scale. And so I'm very aware of that when it comes to looking at the data. If it's a number on the scale, I like to lift heavy weights, so I know that's going to impact the number on the scale. But it's really challenging to rewire that psychologically.
Yeah, absolutely. So to speak to that very quickly, that's why one of my favorite instruments that I have at LifeHack is our DEXA scanner.
Yes. Can you just
Because-
explain what a DEXA scan is for those that are like, aha?
Yeah. So what a DEXA scanner is, it's an X-ray machine. You lay on it. It's very low dose radiation. And what it does is it sort of creates a 2D rendering of your body, but it allows us to analyze the different composition of your body. So we can look at subcutaneous fat. We can look at your visceral fat, which is the fat around your organs. We can look at your bone density and your muscle. And so by looking at that, we're not comparing you to other people. I like to compare you to you. And what we try to do is reduce, total body fat percentage. We try to reduce our visceral fat levels depending on where they are. We try to ensure that our muscle mass and our bone density are optimized and as good as they can be, because we know that those are things that are going to help with the aging process.
That was one of the most interesting things when we came in for our initial experience was because I went in, same thing as a girl kind of healing her relationship with the scale. I went in, not that it's weighing me, but I went in very excited to see the body fat percentage number. But when you educated me on the visceral fat, I was really intrigued to know more about that, and also very proud of what my results were
Yeah,
once you told me
absolutely.
about them.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to the way that you train,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that you look after your body. But yeah, we take those readings, and it's much more important to me than what your body mass index is or what the number on the scale looks like. But going back to what we were talking about previously, I think that high achievers tend to think that more is better.
Yeah.
And if I just do more, then it is going to be like better. I'm going to build more muscle, or I'm going to burn more calories, or I'm going to lose more fat, or my VO2 max is going to get better, and I'm going to be able to run a further distance or run a better time. Like, we're always setting goals for ourselves, and we're trying to like move that bar forward constantly. And I think that where the science sort of comes in is that recovery is also incredibly important. So it's okay to push ourselves hard at times, but then we need to allow our body to recover, right? We need the sleep, maybe a zone 2 cardio day, maybe just a mobility day with like very, very little physical activity. We need to look at that. And, I love using wearable devices because it gives us some impact on that. And, we can we actually at LifeHack, we've got a LifeHack Whoop group, and we aggregate data, and we'll review the data with each patient on a monthly and a quarterly basis so that they can see where they may need to pull back a little bit more. So I have lots of women, for instance, who go to F45 or Oxygen or Orange Theory Fitness, and they're doing these high intensity, like moderate to high intensity workouts, 5 to 6 days a week. What they don't realize is their cortisol levels are just sort of like ramped up. Their recovery levels are down, and the benefits that they're seeing in their body are plateaued, right? And so they're looking to lose weight or build muscle or, have improved sleep. But instead, they're waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Their cortisol levels are still too high. They are not losing weight because that cortisol works anti-insulin. They're not building more muscle because they're doing the same thing with the same kind of weights all the time. We're not seeing the progressive overload. We're not seeing the focus of time under tension with our workouts. And so sometimes less is more. Sometimes turning it back, being kind, giving some recovery time will allow you to nail those workouts better, more efficiently, and see better longer term results.
That was one of the biggest challenges for me, taking our results and my, let's call it homework, if you will, of taking away. So I had audited my training schedule a couple months back. And so I'm very focused on, 2 upper body strength days, 2 lower body strength days. I do a Wednesday cardio day, really trying to focus on a long run. God help me if I could try to stay in zone 2. It's so challenging.
It's hard. It's hard. And it's not fun for everybody. It can be pretty...
It's boring.
It's boring. I found it boring.
Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, it would mean so much to me if you took a few seconds and shared this on social media, sent it to a friend, or left a 5-star review. There is power in community, and I'm so grateful to have you part of mine.